Welcome back to another episode of Bucket List Living with Brad Norwood. I'm your host, Brad Norwood. With me today, another bucket list item for me, if you will. This is a conversation and a connection that I've made through LinkedIn. Matthew Wells is a guy that I have followed, and you probably do too. If you're familiar with basic dad stuff, that hashtag on LinkedIn, you probably know who Matt is. But this is a bucket list deal for me because it's the first time Matt and I have ever talked other than a direct message back on LinkedIn. He's the filmer, the producer, the publisher, the everything of basic dad stuff. Matt, welcome to the show.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. And I really am truly honored to be here, man. I've been looking forward to having this conversation with you.
Well, we connected early on, I think during the pandemic, quite frankly, we were working from home, and I think your wife was laying in the floor doing push-ups with the baby, and you were trying to do some stuff on the computer. And it connected with it hit me right then that you're a guy that just loves being a dad. And so am I. And so I just felt this immediate connection, even though we had never met. I was like, I've got to get to know this guy better. So tell me about Matt Wells.
All right, man. Well, so I'll try to give you a short version because you asked me to tell you about me. I could talk all day long, between the different stories. But me, man, so I listened to a handful of your other podcast people you've had on here and had some really great stories. And I feel like my story is almost, I've lived a very undramatically awesome life. And when I say that, what I mean by that is a lot of people have these amazing testimonies about what they've gone through and the struggles they've endured and not having a father that was with them and having, or being in an abusive relationship or being on the street or whatever. I have none of that. I grew up in a loving family. My parents are still together, always have been. My parents were the personification of what I wanted to turn into as a married couple. I mean, they're in their 60s now and they still treat each other like a high school couple. I mean, my dad still pats her in the butt and gives her hugs and kisses and all that stuff. So I grew up seeing that and knowing that's what I want my life to look like as a parent. And I'm the oldest of four kids. It was totally unintentional, but now I have four kids. So that was never really the plan, but here I am. But so, yeah, I mean, about me, I grew up as the oldest brother of three siblings. I've always been an athlete. I was an athlete my whole life. I loved, and my passion was basketball, though I played quite a few other things. I have a real good core group of friends that I'm still in touch with to this day. And after I finished high school and but realized that my dream of being the next Michael Jordan in the NBA was not going to happen at 5'11" and a half. I went on to Florida State and I got into lifting weights and trying to be big and strong and be a cover model in a magazine, which, was a whole other thing. But when I was done with that, I got my bachelor's and my master's there. I realized that I didn't know what I wanted to do. I got into strength and conditioning at Florida State, and I was on an intern with the strength and conditioning team at Florida State. Did that for a while and thought I wanted to be a strength and conditioning coach. That didn't pan out because I saw the life they live, which is great in a lot of ways. But if you want to be a father and have a family, it's not so great because these guys are spending 70, 80 hours a week with athletes, not to mention going on the road over the weekend. So I had to let that dream go also. And when I was trying to think what I want to do with my life, it was my wife actually that said, well, Matt, you've always been so competitive, or my fiance or girlfriend at the time, you should get into sales. I mean, that's probably the only place you can really continue to be driven and competitive like you are. So I'd been told I'd be good at sales prior to that because of selling Cutco cutlery, like probably a lot of your listeners have done in the past. And, granted, those are friends of the family and stuff, but they'd always say, man, you're really good at this. You should go into sales. And it just went in one ear and out the other. But I thought, once I finished school and I got my bachelor's and my master's, and I didn't want to go that side, and I went this way. Instead I took an audible and went left and got into sales. Started off in medical sales, and fast forward 12 years, I got into technology, and that's where I'm at right now. But along the way, I was blessed to have four beautiful kids. And there was originally there was none, but there was one, two, and then we had the unexpected twins that popped. And so now I got four of them, man. And it's being a dad, as any of you guys know, especially you, it's an adventure, it's a challenge, but it's such a rewarding experience, man. So that has become really and truly what my main passion is. I've got all these other bucket list things I'd like to do and want to do in my life, but I know that the big one, I'm already living it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's around you each and every day. And we tell people that take our class, the My Bucket List Life Plan, that it's not all these fancy sports cars, private jets, extravagant vacations. It's everyday life, living with intention, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you get to do that, and you live it publicly, which is what I love. You share many of those moments online. I want to talk to you. You're in the technology area and industry now. You say technology because, let's be honest, you're the second copier warrior that I know. Dale Dupree has also been a guest on our show. He is the copier warrior. But talk about your sales strategy, that you're not just a copier sales guy. In fact, I think you had a post on it this week about how sales has
Yeah.
had such a terrible name and what you do in the technology world that changes that game.
Yeah, so it's fun that you throw Dale out there because I got to tell you the story. So a couple years back, or not, the beginning of 2019, so almost 2 years ago now, we had our national kickoff meeting, our annual kickoff meeting down in South Florida, and everybody's there. And we're going through this exercise. We're going around the room, and everybody has to stand up and say, "My name is Rebecca, and I am," and then "I am" has to be followed by whatever you are. And so I'm in the back of the room, so I had a while to think about this. And, all that kept coming to mind for me is, what do I love? What am I passionate about? Besides being a dad and doing what I do, I love epics, movies, and, gladiators and Bravehearts and Patriots and 300s. And I'm like, I'm a warrior. I mean, I live to be a warrior. Everything I try to do, I try to be a warrior in what I do. Like, forget it, I'm going to go for a warrior. So when it came to me, it came up, I stood up, I said, "My name is Matt, and I'm a warrior." And everybody kind of laughed, or a couple people jumped because it startled them, and I sat back down. And when we left, I thought, I think I kind of like that. I think I'm gonna run with that. I think maybe I'll use that in what I do and be like the copier warrior or the document warrior or the business warrior or something like that. And I kid you not, it's one of those moments where I feel like your phone's listening to you, because I kid you not, I think it was the very next day I'm scrolling on LinkedIn. And what do I come across? But a guy named Dale Dupree in my feed who I've never heard of, who's called the Copier Warrior. And I was like, what? The copier? You gotta be kidding me, man. I just thought of this. So I started rolling with it, and I called myself the Business Technology Warrior. And after a few weeks, I kept seeing Dale on my feed, and I love everything he puts out there. I mean, everything he does is gold, as far as his thoughts and his originality and his strategy about life. So I reached out to him, and I told him, and I was like, "Hey, man, I know you don't know me, but I found you on LinkedIn, and you're the copier warrior. And in case you see any of my posts in your feed, I do a lot of similar stuff. I'm the document technology warrior. I want you to know I'm not ripping you off. I just had this idea, and then literally the next day I found you." And he was Dale. He was as gracious as he can be. He's like, "Yeah, man, great minds think alike. Roll with it. Do your thing, brother." Right. So I did, and him and I have forged a relationship since then. And so you ask about my strategy in sales, and I'll be honest with you, man. I mean, most of my sales strategy early on has been really the cookie cutter programs that we're all told. It's the metrics. It's bang out as many calls as you can, get through a bunch, and do a bunch of stop buys. And at the end of the day, that does work. I mean, I'm not going to say it doesn't work. It's been tried and true, but it doesn't set you apart. It doesn't provide for feeling good about what you're doing. It doesn't provide for building relationships. And it was through Dale and through the rebellion that I started trying some of those methods. So I've done a lot of what they preach. I've done the letter campaign. I try to be very, very different in my outreach. I've tried to use LinkedIn. I'm really going all in on the social selling and trying to modify that to my personality and use my flavor to reach people in my area, in my community, with the brand that I'm building, if you want to call it that. So that people will say, "Hey, this isn't just about selling a copier or selling a document software or selling whatever. This is to him, it's really about building a relationship and becoming a real solidified partner for our business." So I'm trying to use LinkedIn to that extreme here locally in Jacksonville. And other than that, I still continue to use the same types of the not so businessy business cards, which are some flyers, and the letter campaign. I do a lot of what Dale and Joshua and those guys preach. And in the midst of that, yes, I'm still making a lot of phone calls and I'm still doing a lot of stop buys, but I'm doing that more as what I enjoy doing. What I really like about sales is that personal touch and having that disruption in the typical things that business owners see.
Yeah, yeah. I love how you use the word disruption there at the end, because really that's what it's all about. This disruption, excuse me, and creating that experience around it, isn't it?
It really is.
Yeah. So before we hit record, you had your daughter Gracie in the room. Do you ever take your kids on any of your sales calls just to help build family and community?
I have not. During and only really because I haven't had the opportunity. That's been something I've thought about doing. I don't know how well that would or wouldn't be received. So I have not done it before, but I have had that idea pop in my head. My daughter, she's 9, so she's in school, and I can't take the twins. I mean, they're a year old. Gabriel might be able to get away with going with me, but they're all in school now, so I can't really take them with me anywhere. Maybe during the summertime, but this year's summertime was a little unorthodox and unusual for the history of planet Earth, but I haven't done that before. And have you tried that before in the past? Have you talked to other people who have?
I've not taken 2 meetings, but I have had clients meet my oldest son, Bryson.
Okay.
Bryson strives in his dream. He will be a pilot. In fact, he's told me before, Dad, I want to be a pilot for Dream It. He wants to be our private pilot. And I just chuckle. And I say, son, whenever you're our private pilot, that means we've both made it. So that'll be great.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've had several clients meet him, just through interactions. I just thought, as you're talking about the disruption and the experience and creating community, what a beautiful young daughter you have. In fact, I hope she busts through the door before we end up hitting stop on the episode. But how cool would it be to stop in and just say, hey, so-and-so, I heard your technology is working wonderfully. So I just stopped by with Gracie on our way to the main event, and we wanted to say hi, just something that would totally fit your stigma and what you do.
I completely agree. That would be a fun thing to be able to do. And, I want to back up and rewind for a second, because when I was giving you my strategy and about Matt, I skipped over what's probably the most important part of my life. And that is making sure that in everything that I am doing as a father, as a businessman, as a friend, is that I'm making sure that I give glory to God and all that stuff, man. So that's a big part of who I am, is my faith, and practicing, my faith in my outreach and my relationships and whatever, and making sure that whatever I'm doing, that I'm doing it, for the glory of God in all things, and that I'm continue to build on the foundation that I have. My life really has been, if I'm sitting down, if I'm walking in front of a church or in front of a group and saying, hey, here's my personal testimony, my testimony falls back on foundations. And foundations, I see a lot of stuff on LinkedIn about foundations. Matter of fact, small world or just coincidence, I'm pretty sure that I saw Joshua Desha have a post today about foundations on LinkedIn. But my personal email address, I'm not going to put the whole thing out there, but it's based around Matthew 7:25. Yes, because my name is Matthew, but also because that's a scripture reference. And Matthew 7:25 is that the rains came down, the waters rose, and the winds blew and beat against the house, but it wouldn't fall because it's founded on the rock. And I want my life to be, I talked about that I had a very undramatically beautiful life. It wasn't dramatic in the sense there was no drug addiction, nothing crazy that happened. But what that did do for me is that built such a solid foundation for me to grow and live on and try to exemplify and carry on, in my own legacy and through my own children and their legacy. So not to backwards rewind, but, I'm realizing if I'm talking about my history, I can't leave God out of that.
Absolutely. And you do it in your walk very well. As somebody who, again, has only met you from the outside per se, you exemplify and glorify that walk in all of your actions that you put out there through your sales method, and you don't beat anybody over the head with it. A lot of Christians get criticized for, I don't want to hear all the Jesus talk.
Yeah.
Whatever, but you do a great job with that. You exemplify him. You reflect him authentically, as my partner, Larry Watkins, and I like to say. Congratulations to you for doing that. And like you said, glory to him.
That's right.
I do want to take us back to that, though, because we talk about the letter L all the time in the bucket list life plan. Stands for leave a legacy. And so that takes us back to, you mentioned your mom and dad still married for however many years. 60 something years old, that's got to be the legacy that you continue to follow, build, and leave now for your children.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about that in your life.
Sure. So, as much as the basic dad stuff videos that people are so familiar with when they see me or hear my name, it looks just like anything on social media. Social media puts on this visual, this personification that, oh, it's such a perfect life, and it's also well structured and perfect, and it's in a box, got a nice bow on it. Man, I struggle with being a father, and I have the same struggles that every other dad has. It might look perfect, but it's not perfect, man. It's ugly sometimes. We're down in the trenches with fighting and unhappy children. And unfortunately, I raise my voice when I shouldn't at times, but I'm constantly trying to get better at that. And a big part of that is the relationship with my wife, and making sure that, that my children, whether it's my daughter seeing how daddy treats her mommy, and how a man should treat a woman, so that hopefully she looks for that in a man one day. And then my boys, as they grow up, seeing how a man should treat a woman, both ways. So no matter what you look at from the woman's point of view or the men's point of view, they see this is what it's supposed to look like. This is what it should look like. Yes, there's flaws, and a big part of that is being able to fess up to those flaws. And even as a dad to your children, tell them when you're wrong, when you messed up, and apologize for it, and tell them you're still trying to do better. Guess what, guys? This is my first time being a dad, so I'm learning as I go, just like you guys are learning as kids. So, but the legacy is just knowing, the legacy for me is making sure that they see the effort, and they know that I'm putting everything that I can into it, and I'm trying to get better at it. Whether it's the podcasts that I listen to or the books that I'm reading. I do a lot of reading, and I would say half of my reading is parenting related books. I think I dropped on my stories a few weeks ago. I did a book that I'm reading that is Silence is a Scary Sound, which is a funny book, hilarious, but it's just stories about having kids and toddlers and stuff. But a lot of my reading is based off of being a dad, and how can I be a better dad? I mean, the next book I have, once I finish that one, is this one here. It's Raising Men, being a father from a Navy SEAL. I know you told me about a book that I also have on my list. It's Raising Modern Day Knights, and I can't wait to get that one after I finish the couple I have in my queue right now. So they see what I read, they hear what I listen to, and they see how I treat my wife. And again, it's not perfect. We're married couples. It's always a work in progress. But they also see the love, they see the hugs, they see the affection, and they see, when there is a fallout, that there is also an apology and an embracing moment of making up and trying to make up for those moments. So I think a big part of the legacy is making sure that those things aren't happening behind closed doors, that things are in their face and they're aware of how it happens, and that they are able to see it from me the same way I saw it with my parents.
Yeah, that's perfect. That's perfect. And again, leadership is more about actions than it is words. And like you said, they're able to see the hugs and the kisses and the butt bumps and whatever else there is, right? I want to pour out and point some attention to, you posted just a week or two ago, your wife and yourself were able to take your first vacation kid-free. And how long was it?
The last time we took a vacation together was just the two of us, was not even a weekend. It was a one-night getaway, and it was shortly after Gabriel was born, so about 4 years ago. Wow. That was our first getaway, just the two of us, in 4 years. And it was amazing. It was so fantastic.
Yeah. And not only did I know you and your wife enjoyed it, how did the kids enjoy it? How did they react?
They had a blast. So they kept calling it a date, we go on dates. We try to have date night. This was date weekend, but Gracie kept saying, "You guys excited for your date this weekend?" It's like, yeah, we're excited for our vacation date. Right. But they had a great time. And my parents came over here and watched them, and they got to have Nana and Papa here and have fun with them and get, a taste of Nana and Papa for the weekend, who, like any grandparents, let them eat all the sugary stuff they want for a few days. But no, they had a really good time. And then when we came back, it was one of those times where, it was very recharged. It was very good for my wife and I, because we got to recharge and enjoy one another, just the two of us, which was great for us. But it was also great for the kids, because they got to have parents who came back recharged and came back, with a bit of a breath of fresh air. Because, whether you have one kid, 2 kids, 4 kids, or whatever, it doesn't slow down from the time you wake up until the time they go to bed, or you go to bed, really, because they keep popping up and then they climb into bed with you, everything. So there is no breath of fresh air. You're pretty much under the covers the whole time, breathing that hot air, trying to get a breath, and every once in a while you can pop your head up. So we had a whole weekend of that, and it was great for us. It was great for the kids. It was great for my kids because they got to see their grandparents, and great for my parents because they got to see their grandkids. So
Yeah.
it was great all the way around. I mean, it's just one big giant full circle of greatness.
That's fun. That's fun. And an encouragement for anybody listening to take time out of your life, to spend time on your life, and call your spouse and book that special one night away. It can be just one night. Find a sitter, find the grandparents, whoever you can find. Just make the phone call. Make 2 phone calls, one to your spouse and one to a sitter. We encourage you, Matt and I both, to take that night away and spend time on your life. It's priceless. It comes back to you tenfold. Like you said, recharged and ready to go.
And that was a great way of putting it. Take time for yourself to have time. How'd you say it again? It was really good.
Take time. Yeah. Spend time take time out of your life to spend time on your life.
There you go. I like that. I'm writing that down actually.
Yeah, please do. Please do. It's great and it works. It's a principle that we teach in the My Bucket List Life Plan. And the average age of death is 80 in the United States, and that's if we're lucky to get there. And so we encourage people to live not just once, because you're going to die once. We want you to live each and every day. And again, it's around you. We've had people accomplish their bucket list per se on the My Bucket List Life Plan in just a single weekend being at home. And so it's that simple to do. You just have to, again, take time out to spend time on. That being said, Matt, I want to ask you about what drew my attention to you and most everybody's attention, I'm sure. Tell us about the hashtag Basic Dad Stuff and the videos that you do.
Okay, so I mean, anybody that has watched any of those posts, if you took the time to read the copy also, I give credit in each and every one of these posts to Patrick McNamara. He's the basic dude stuff. I didn't know at the time that he's kind of a celebrity, and he's been doing basic dude stuff for I think 2 weeks longer than I've been doing basic dad stuff, but he's been doing other stuff as well. I mean, he's got a podcast. He's got his Get Some Band. He's really huge on Instagram and some other places, but I didn't know that. I was just scrolling my feed on LinkedIn and I saw this video that was like a minute long, basic dude stuff, and it was totally me. I mean, I'm a rugged kind of guy, just like he is. I don't have the military background like he has, but everything that he did on that video was like, oh, I love this, and I went and watched the other 2. I was like, this is great. So I thought, that's such a good thing. And it just popped in my head just randomly, like most of the ideas you see on LinkedIn, they're just kind of light bulb, boom, pop-ups. But basic dad stuff, I could just take that and say basic dad stuff. So I actually reached out to him on LinkedIn, sent him a direct message, and I asked him, I said, hey man, I've got an idea for kind of a spoof, if you will, of what you do. Just instead of basic dude stuff, be basic dad stuff. Would you be okay with that? And he replied with just the singular thumbs up emoji. I was like, all right, there we go. I'm going to do it, man. So at the time I had a beard, not long and pointy like he did, but I had a nice thick beard, and I started doing basic dad stuff. Because the thing about the basic dad stuff that's fun is I don't have to do anything for it. I'm not scripting anything out or planning anything. It's just taking the phone in the things that I'm doing every day, holding the phone up, with what I'm already doing with my kids, and just say, hey, basic dad stuff. Yeah. And so I did the first one, and I'd had some links on some posts on LinkedIn that did really well at the time, but that one just took off. I mean, it didn't go viral per se, but it got a lot of really great responses. And I'm like, man, I had fun doing it. So I was like, I'm gonna do it again. So I just started doing it. And then week after week, I was like, I can keep doing this. I mean, there's still more things I can do. And it just snowballed. And it quickly became kind of the thing that people recognize me for on LinkedIn. And it becomes a thing where now my kids are saying it, and the wife was saying it, and my kids go basic dad stuff, and my daughter even adapted it. She does fun stuff. She's like, hey dad, basic sister stuff, and so,
legacy.
Yeah, so it grew, and then for Father's Day, my wife had the whole family. She made basic dad stuff shirts, and had my Matt Daddy Wells from Instagram on the back of it. And yeah, it's become a really fun thing. And, you being the Bucket List Life podcast, I've got a lot of bucket list items like any of us do. But one of my big things matter of fact, a few years ago, I stumbled on an old journal entry from like when I was in college. And I I started a bucket list but never finished it. But I can't remember the order, but either the second or the third item on that list was write a successful book, or, you know, write and publish a successful book. And I've always wanted to be a writer. I've had so many projects that I have started but didn't finish because I got sidetracked and distracted or whatever, or another thought came to me. I started something else without finishing this one. And that's on me. You know, it's full ownership. I got to work on those things and go back to them. But I thought, you know, this basic dad stuff thing could easily, most of my ideas for books in the past have been, I've got a few genres I've thought about, you know, whether it be supernatural Christian thriller type thing, or a zombie style, because I love the zombie genre also. I've got other things I've worked on, but I'm like, man, all the stuff that I've posted on LinkedIn and all the ideas I've had, I could easily compile all this and then tell my story around it and put together a book about being a father. There's no shortage of father material on the market, but, you know, that's not to say that somebody can't benefit or, you know, get something out of what I've experienced also. I mean, I've definitely learned that from my LinkedIn experience. A lot of people have reached out. I mean, all the time people reach out and say that they've been inspired or encouraged by it. And that's why I continue doing it, man, because there's nothing that makes you feel better than getting that message from somebody, or, you know, a comment from somebody saying, man, this really made my day today. It really lifted me up, and I really appreciate you doing this. And once you get like, I got to keep doing this, man. You get a high from that. And, you know, again, it's a high for me, but again, glory to God that I'm able to do it and that it does reach somebody. I've had some pretty personal messages from people who are going through really hard times and really, really tough struggles that said that it just really helped them get through a tough patch. And I couldn't ask for anything better from, you know, my connections on LinkedIn than that.
That's right. Yeah. There's no paycheck in the world that would cover the feeling that you get from knowing that you've helped just one person, right? Through whatever that might be, whether it's a struggle or you've helped them succeed, whatever, there's no price in the world you can put on that. And I know you have helped and inspire thousands probably of people across the LinkedIn network. If people listening to the show aren't following you currently, how do they follow you and connect with you, Matt?
Sure. Well, on LinkedIn, I'm Matthew Wells, or you could look up the hashtag basic dad stuff or hashtag all is wells instead of all is wells. So I have those two different hashtags on there, or you can find me underneath Matthew Wells. I also am on Instagram as Matt Daddy Wells, which is my little take on Mac Daddy, but Matt Daddy Wells. And I'm on TikTok as well as the same thing. My daughter convinced me to get on TikTok, so I'm still pretty new in the TikTok game, but Matt Daddy Wells on there as well. And that's really, I mean, I have a Facebook account, but I also have a YouTube page. I recently started, they're all as well. So I started a YouTube page just recently because people kept saying, hey, do you have any place where these are all put together? So I don't got to like scroll through just tons and tons and miles of posts to find your videos. It's like, no, I don't. So I finally started a YouTube page to put everything and have a repository to drop all those videos in there with, you know, here's my basic dad stuff list. Here's my copier, you know, work business list. And here's just other random funny stuff I've tried to do.
Yeah, that's perfect, man. YouTube's a great spot to store all that. I'll post all of those links in the comment for the show. Matt, we're running out of time. I greatly appreciate you joining the show today, the conversation and the friendship that we're going to build here going forward. I look forward to being in touch with you. You're on my list of heroes to meet as part of my bucket list life plan. Ladies and gentlemen, he's Matt Wells. Again, follow him on LinkedIn at Matthew Wells, hashtag basic dad stuff. Matt, thanks for being a great dad. Thanks for being on the show.
Hey,
thank you all for listening. And remember, the bucket list life is a life worth living. Have a great day.